In a country full of anomalies, we have now been hearing reports of acute shortage of chemical fertilizers that has hit the farmers of this agricultural country. The scenario is mainly attributed to the faulty decision-making of the government, which contracted two private companies which lacked expertise in the field to procure the required fertilizers. The government is now all set to scrap the deal, but that doesn't address the immediate crisis faced by the farmers. Good morning, I'm Amar Singh Pradhan, and these are the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli exhibits reluctance to break the comfort zone and passing on the crucial ministries to new candidates. Agriculture Ministry all set to scrap the fertilizers contract deal with Sailung and Honiko Enterprises after they failed to procure the fertilizers despite a massive demand in the market. A single-day spike of over 1,000 COVID-19 cases confirmed, taking the national tally past 45,000. COVID-19 death tally climbs to 280. And six-time champion Serena Williams stages a comeback to advance into the last 16 of US Open. Medvedev cruises into pre-quarter final. 1,041 cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in the country yesterday to take the total COVID-19 infection tally to 45,277. Speaking at the press briefing yesterday afternoon, a spokesperson for the Health Ministry, Dr. Jageshwar Gautam, informed that 757,963 sample tests have been conducted through the PCR method till date in the country, with 12,473 tests conducted in the past 24 hours. 6,701 individuals are in quarantine centers, whereas active cases stand at 17,870 in the country and are currently staying in various isolation centers. Meanwhile, 1,566 individuals returned home after registering full recovery in the past 24 hours. The recovery rate stands at 60%, with 27,127 recoveries registered till date. Meanwhile, 9 individuals succumbed to the virus in the past 24 hours, taking the COVID-19 death tally to 280 in the country. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, who has been operating the cabinet meetings and party activities from his official residence in Balwatar, citing health reasons, has kept the vacant but crucial ministries with himself. Even as there are a handful of candidates vying for the vacant positions, Prime Minister Oli has yet again exhibited the reluctance to break the comfort zone of passing on the crucial ministries to new candidates. We have more in this report.
Following the departure of the former minister Yuvaraj Khatioda, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli now also heads the Ministry of Finance and Communication. This, however, is not the first time that the Prime Minister has kept a crucial ministry with himself, as prior to this, the Prime Minister had headed the Ministry of Urban Development for considerably long time. Following the ouster of the then Samajwadi Party from the government in December last year, the Urban Development Ministry and Law Ministry had remained vacant. The former Deputy House Speaker Shivamaya Tumbahamfe was assigned the responsibility of Law Ministry, but the Urban Development Ministry has remained vacant ever since. Likewise, when the Prime Minister's confidant, Minister Gokul Baskota, was ousted in February last year, the ministry was assigned to the then Finance Minister Yuvaraj Khatioda. And now, with Khatioda's exit, Prime Minister Oli has taken over the responsibility of the Finance and the Communication Ministries himself. Given his modus operandi, the Prime Minister doesn't seem inclined on bringing qualified candidates to head these crucial ministries. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Oli is also charged of being power-centric by not letting the ministers work independently. Balwatar has its say in every decision made by the other ministries, including political appointments and regular administrative and financial issues, to the extent that a department minister at times is unaware when a secretary under his ministry is transferred. With Prime Minister charged of confining himself to the company of confidants, the popularity of the government is dwindling, while there is a growing polarization in the ruling Nepal Communist Party.
Agriculture Ministry is all set to scrap the fertilizers contract deal with two private companies after they failed to procure the fertilizers despite a massive demand in the market. The ministry has already directed the agriculture input company to proceed ahead with the cancellation of the deal by seizing the deposit amount of the two companies. We have more in this report.
As per the deal reached with the agriculture input company, the two contractor companies, Shailung Enterprises and Honiko Enterprises, were required to land the contracted chemical fertilizers totaling 50,000 tons by Saturday itself. However, the two companies are learned to have not even bought the said amount of fertilizers. Shailung Enterprises is a blacklisted company in the construction sector belonging to Sharada Prasad Adhikari, while Honiko Enterprises, which lacks expertise in the field, is operated by Homnath Koirala. The government has concluded that the two companies were going to complicate the fertilizers scenario in the country and is all set to cancel the deal that was reached upon with the two companies in early April. The Agriculture Input Corporation has already been directed to cancel the agreement with Shailung and Honiko Enterprises. Shailung was required to supply the chemical fertilizers at $320 for every ton, while Honiko had contracted at $309 per ton. Both the companies had backed the deal by committing a low tender price, even as both companies lack any previous experience in the sector. This has resulted in extreme fertilizers crisis as the farming season begins in the country with the onset of monsoon, while the country is now well into the end of monsoon, indicating that it is high time for farmers to use fertilizers in their field. The government, meanwhile, has asked for a loan of 50,000 tons of fertilizers from Bangladesh, but the consignment is yet to arrive in the country.
The treatment of COVID-19 patients through plasma therapy has started in Chitwan. The treatment of a coronavirus-infected woman admitted at Chitwan Medical College was carried out yesterday by plasma therapy. People who have recovered from the COVID-19 infection have started donating their plasma. 3 individuals donated their plasma at the regional blood bank in Bharatpur yesterday. Bharatpur Hospital and the local blood bank had called on the recovered patients to donate their plasma. The plasma is extracted from the blood donated by the individuals who have recovered from coronavirus and stored in the blood bank to be used when required for treatment of other coronavirus patients. COVID-19 infected individuals can donate their plasma 14 days after their recovery from the virus and remaining in isolation. And let's move on to international updates. Australian police yesterday made dozens of arrests amid anti-lockdown protests attended by hundreds of people nationwide. In Melbourne, the centre of Australia's outbreak, about 300 people marched in defiance of tough measures that have been in place for a month. A smaller protest took place in Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth. On Friday, Australian Premier Scott Morrison had said 7 of the country's 8 states had agreed to open their internal borders by December. He suggested an eventual travel bubble with New Zealand could boost tourism and help revive the economy. Confirmed virus cases in Australia have more than tripled to over 26,000 over the past 2 months, with deaths rising to 748 from 104 over the same time period. Shortly after China accused India of being entirely responsible for the border standoff in Ladakh and blamed Delhi for escalating tension between the two countries, the Indian Defence Ministry called for calm and appealed against action that could complicate the situation or escalate matters in border areas. The Indian Defence Ministry said in a series of tweets yesterday that the two sides should continue their discussions, including through diplomatic and military channels, to ensure complete disengagement and de-escalation and full restoration of peace and tranquility along the line of control at the earliest. Another tweet said the current situation should be handled responsibly and neither side should take any further action that could either complicate the situation or escalate matters in the border areas. A third said it was important therefore that China cooperate with India for complete disengagement at the earliest from all friction areas including Pangong Lake as well as de-escalation in border areas in accordance with the bilateral agreements and protocols. The Chinese had earlier put out a brief but accusatory statement following a meeting between Indian Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and his Chinese counterpart in Moscow late Friday night. And in our public voice segment, we had asked the local residents in Jhapa regarding the hasty decision to announce tender prior to demarcation of land for railway track. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
Public voice.
सरकार निर्माण व्यवसायी र रेल विभागको मिलो मतमा यो भ्रष्टाचार गर्न खोजिया मात्र हो।
जग्गा प्राप्ति नगरिकन मुआवजा वितरण नगरिकन ठेक्का लागेको अवस्थामा ठेकेदारहरू निर्माण गर्ने हेतुले हाम्रा घर जग्गाका लागि खनजोत गर्न अथवा निर्माण गर्न आउँछन् भने त्यो हामी कदापि हुन दिदैनौं।
सरकारहरुको मिलो मतोमा खानुको लागि मात्रै गरेको हो। यो पुस्तौंसम्म रेल आउने सम्भव छैन।
जीविकापार्जन गर्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो एउटा घर मात्रै छ, अरु बाहिर हाम्रो जायजेथाहरु केही पनि छैन र अहिले यो जग्गा हाम्रो रोक्का गरेर राखिदिएको छ अनि हामीले चलखेल गर्न केही पनि पाएका छैनौं। कहीँ बैंकमा राख्न गयौं भने पनि हामीले राख्न पाउँदैनौं, बिक्री गर्यौं भने बिक्री गर्न पाउँदैनौं।
And now time for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with their opinion.
Public Pulse.
And your question is, what action should be taken against companies responsible for acute fertilizer crisis when most needed by farmers? Your options are option A, cancel contract, option B, ban contractors, and option C, action under criminal offense. The voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And let's move on to sports update. European champions Portugal in impressive form on their return to action after a 10-month new coronavirus hiatus crossed Croatia 4-1. Portugal hit the woodwork 3 times before João Cancelo fired them ahead 4 minutes before halftime in the League A Group 3 match. Diogo Jota and João Felix both scored their first international goals in the second half before Bruno Petkovic pulled one back and Andres Silva then added a fourth as Portugal hammered Croatia 4-1. Ronaldo, who is on 99 international goals, was ruled out with a toe infection while Croatia were missing key midfielders Luka Modric and Ivan Rakitic after their federation agreed not to pick them before the start of the European club season. In another group match, world champions France aced past Sweden with a 1-0 win in Stockholm. The goal was struck by Kylian Mbappe shortly before the first half. Likewise, England also kicked off their Nations League campaign with a 1-0 win over Iceland as Raheem Sterling converted an injury time penalty. In another match, Belgium defeated Denmark 2-0. And now time for our special segment Around the World.
Scientists have said Earth's lost species is only the tip of an iceberg as they calculated the number of many mammals that might be lost this century based on fossil evidence of past extinctions. Their predictions suggest at least 550 species will follow in the footsteps of the mammoth and saber-toothed cat. The new research published in the journal Science Advances suggests that humans are almost entirely responsible for extinctions of mammals in past decades. US President Donald Trump has said the United States is ready to help resolve the dispute between India and China over the mountain border running through the Western Himalayas. On Friday, Trump called the state of dispute between the two nations as very nasty. Both sides deployed additional forces along the frontier after a clash in June, during which 20 Indian soldiers were killed in hand-to-hand fighting. The defense ministers of India and China were due to hold talks in Moscow on Friday, the highest level face-to-face political contact since tensions flared along the disputed mountain border back in May.
We're talking, while we're at it, we're talking about China and India. Going at it pretty good on the border, as you know. It's been very nasty. It's been a very nasty situation. And we stand ready to help with respect to China and India. If we can do anything, we would love to get involved and help. And we are talking to both countries about that.
Meanwhile, China has said that there is no need for a third party to mediate. Russia has demanded Germany for more details on the Navalny poisoning claims, urging for transparency. The Kremlin said on Friday that it wanted a dialogue with Germany over the case of the opposition politician and that Russian doctors who treated him initially were much more transparent than the German doctors treating him now. Germany, where Navalny is in hospital, has said he was poisoned with a Soviet-style Novichok nerve agent and wants the perpetrators held to account. Russia has until now not opened a criminal investigation and said there is no evidence yet of a crime. This is Sarah Sapsanama for Around the World and Kantipur News Desk.
And before we wrap up this morning news bulletin, here's a look at the top stories one more time. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli exhibits reluctance to break the comfort zone and passing on the crucial ministries to new candidates. Agriculture Ministry all set to scrap the fertilizers contract deal with Silung and Haniko Enterprises after they failed to procure the fertilizers despite a massive demand in the market. A single-day spike of over 1,000 COVID-19 cases confirmed, taking the national tally past 45,000. COVID-19 death tally climbs to 280. And six-time US Open champion Serena Williams stages a comeback to advance into the last 16. Medvedev cruises into pre-quarterfinal. And those were our latest headlines. Stay with us for more news and entertainment on KTVSD. Stay safe and good day.